I would like.
That's camera.
I can move it. It's not.
Okay, welcome everybody. We're glad you are able to join us this evening to learn more about Kingsport Homeless Ministry and Grace House. Before I introduce our distinguished guests, let's start with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity tonight to gather together virtually to learn more about the needs of those experiencing homelessness in our community. We pray you will bless the efforts of all those who are working very hard to bring new and needed resources to bear on this problem. We pray for communication and cooperation between organizations so that together the best possible assistance can be provided. Open the hearts and minds of the community at large and show us how we can be your hands and your feet, reaching out to our neighbors in need. Amen.
Amen.
So tonight we have 4 board members from the Kingsport Homeless Ministry with us to share the story of how this organization came into being and also to talk about their plans to open Grace House as a day center and an overnight shelter. Bobby Flowers is president of the board and also serves as one of 2 homeless street outreach social workers with the Kingsport Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Waverly Road's own Joe Morrison serves as vice president for the board, and she'll be participating with us tonight through a pre-recorded video. Another one of Waverly Road's own, Betsy Preston, serves as secretary for the board. And last but not least, Don Royston, retired CPA, serves as board treasurer. Thanks to each of you for spending some time with us this evening. We're eager to hear about how things are going and what you have planned for Grace House. So Bobby, do you want to start off saying a few words, or would you like to kick off the program by showing Miss Jo's video?
Let's show Miss Jo's video first.
Okay, Howard, can you pull that up for us?
I can indeed. Does everyone see a black screen?
Yes.
First of all,
Yes.
I think most of you know, but you certainly should know, that the Kingsport Homeless Ministry really had its beginning in the Waverly Road church parking lot. In February of 2017, Betsy Preston was taking me home, and we went out into the parking lot to a winter storm rain, and we got in the car, and just as we were pulling out, there was a clash of thunder and a streak of lightning. Very unusual winter rain. And out of my mouth just popped the words, "Betsy, where do you think the homeless are sleeping tonight?" And that was the beginning of our ministry. From there, we decided to get together some people that we knew to be particularly interested in homeless issues. At that time, John and Debbie Clayson were still here. And so we had them come to the church, along with Danny Howe, who is mission chairman at First Broad Street Methodist Church. And then we had, I had seen a man named Bobby Flowers' picture in the Sunday stories of the newspaper, talking about his interest in the homeless. So we got together the Claysons and Bobby Flowers and Danny Howe in the library of Waverly Road Church. And there we discussed what we could do about it. And so that was the basis of the organization. And we had some meetings, public meetings then at the Chamber of Commerce to have people come who are already involved in some way with providing services to the homeless to present to us what they were doing. And we discovered that the big gap was overnight shelter. There were food services that seemed to be taken care of in other meetings, but not enough overnight shelter. Very, very limited. So we decided that that should be our focus. And then I was trying to think of the next step. So we began to have public meetings to have people present what they were doing and inform the public. And then we formed just a board. We had to start somewhere. Started with a board and have been meeting since then. And now we have had gifts from churches and individuals that made it possible for us to buy a building. And incidentally, those of you who have been in the church a good while will remember Summers and Golden Law, and the building we've purchased is a building that Summers owned. Now, where do we go from here? Let's go to Charlotte. Well, then Danny Howe, the mission chairman at First Broad Street, said he could get their church bus and take a group of people to Charlotte to see the homeless ministry that our Liz Clayson Kelly directs. And so Danny drove the bus, and we invited as many people as we thought were interested to go to Charlotte, and they did, and observed what was being done over there. And then we came back and started with our organization and began making appeals. And at this point, we have been able, by the generosity of churches and individuals and foundations, to buy the building. And the next step is renovating it to suit the needs, because it was not a building that was readily usable for the homeless shelter. So we're hoping before long to get that renovation complete so that we can begin housing the homeless population. When we began talking about the name for the house, we decided on Grace House, because there, but for the grace of God, go I. But we need to remember always that the ministry is based biblically. When Jesus was telling his disciples in the last chapter of Matthew that we were to feed the hungry, take in the stranger, visit the prisoners, we felt taking in the stranger meant taking in the homeless. And so that's the biblical foundation for the ministry. We appreciate deeply all the contributions that Waverly Road folks have made, And we'll be letting you know when the building is dedicated and inviting you to come if you would like. And then there will be opportunities to visit later on, and also provide maybe some other forms of help, some maybe small bags that have shampoo and a little towel and some toiletries that would be useful to the homeless people who don't have those, of course. We deeply appreciate all that the Waverly Road family have done to contribute to this, and we ask for your continued prayers and support in any way that you would like. And we will be planning probably some organized visits so that people can come and see the facility. Right now, there's a good bit of renovation to the interior to make it suitable for the ministry. So thank you again very much for your prayers and all your support. And remember that this ministry really started in Waverly Road.
And so with that, I will turn the floor over to Bobby and Don and Betsy. And we want to save about 15 or 20 minutes at the end for Q&A, but the floor is yours, folks.
Well, it's been a journey. I hope everybody can still hear me. But we have some dedicated members on our board who have worked tirelessly. Don is just day and night, plus dealing with all the finances and so forth. And I worked at WKPT for about 42 years. And I finally decided to take a job at KHRA as their homeless street outreach worker. And the reason I just felt led to do that is because I needed to know. I needed to really know what was going on downtown. You know, Joe talked about where are they sleeping tonight. And right now, if you look at the beds in Kingsport, you have Salvation Army, which has some rules. You have Hope Haven, and you have Family Promise, which is just for families. And right now, Salvation Army in Kingsport's full. And they can't white flag because it's not cold enough. So they are full. Johnson City Salvation Army is full, and Bristol is nearly full. And of course, we know that this is the last week for Hunger First. They will be closing their doors Friday. There's just a handful of people left there. Erin Gray particularly has been working so hard, her and Jane Ann Carrico, to get as many people in the system as possible and start working on rehab or whatever it is they need. Michael put most of them up at the Mayor Court, and there's one or two in Travelers, and they'll be there at least through Friday. But after that, we're not sure where they'll go. We're working as hard as we can to get to face-to-face contact and try to find out their needs. And it's just been blowing me away. I started December 20th, and the stories that you hear some of these people tell you is just, it's unbelievable. You know, the trauma, the abuse, is the drugs causing the mental health, or is the mental health causing the drugs? The codependency that especially the women have on people that are just drag them down. And I think what I'm learning is, and what Grace House has big shoe to fill, big empty place to fill, is we're going to have a place where these people can go. Right now, they're kind of gathering at the Salvation Army. They got a grant to open up a small day center, but it's not the captain's desire. You know, he wants to continue with just a shelter. So we will, when we get up and running, we will work with them to start moving the day center part to us, and we will be the intake facility for the homeless in Kingsport. And what that means is, we go out, we find them, or they'll come by and we'll grab them, and we'll just start to learn names and start to learn stories and start getting people to the help they need. I have taken people to Knoxville. I've taken them to Recovery Soldiers in Elizabethton and Watauga. We've taken, Kentucky has actually came down here to take people. Our problem here in East Tennessee is we don't really have a facility. And that's what's really hurting us. We have to go all over the place to place people. And that's what we've been doing. Jane Ann Carrico is amazing. She come to work for Kingsport Housing from the Sullivan County Drug Task Force. So she knows all these places, all these people. And that's been our struggle, is finding what their need is and trying to get them to the place that can address that need. And what we're finding also, of course, which we knew we would, is they're not at that place. They're not going to accept that help because they're not there yet, unfortunately. And the days coming up, if you don't want our help, you don't want help from Salvation Army, then you got a decision to make. Because we actually, a gentleman, a church down in Louisiana, has been corresponding with one of our homeless, and he's gone through rehab. He's doing so much better. They want him to come down there and become a part. So Thursday night, I'm taking him to the bus station. He's heading to Louisiana. And, we're hearing, we're starting to finally hear good stories to weigh against all the bad stories. Right now, we're still outnumbered 90-10 with bad stories, but that's what Grace House to me is going to be. It's going to be that transition from being on the streets to the beginning steps of where we can get you. If you're ready for housing, we'll work with you to get housing. If you need to be in some kind of recovery, which 90% do, we're going to do our best to get you somewhere that will fit you, that you can start getting help. And that's what I've been learning these last few weeks, is because, and the sad thing I've been learning these last few weeks, and I heard her when she prayed at the beginning, it was beautiful that we work together, because right now there's a lot of groups that don't work together, and it does nothing but hurt. But we're slowly building relationships back up from past hurts and getting everybody on the same page. The city grants that they got and the ESG grants that housing got from Arch, that money's starting to run out. We've been going as fast as we could to get people housed, and we've had a lot of success in that, but that money's running out. I know the city's going to apply for more. The deadline's at the end of this month, and they will get more, and they're going to take over some of that ESG grant. But our job has got to be to have a place where these folks can go and begin to get that case management and that help. And we're blessed to have ETSU Social Work Department, the King University Social Work Department, and Don laid a little surprise on me the other day. I can't go into all the details, but we will have a nonprofit dental facility in the building now, which really excites me because that's a big, big need in the homeless community and in the low income community. And so that's where we are. I'm going to let Don kind of tell you where we're at in this big process, because it has been a process. We started this back in 2018, really looking for a facility, and the trouble we reached and the pushback that we got from a lot of folks, because we were always compared to a Hunger First, but we're not going to be a Hunger First. Our goal is to put ourselves out of work. I found out the other day, and it just blew me away, that homelessness is $1 billion business. Think about that for a second. $1 billion business. We want to be able to sell Grace House one day to maybe make it a drug treatment place or something, because there's our job. We worked ourselves out of a job. We don't want to continue the same way we've been going, because the times are getting hard and you don't know what the next day is going to bring. We're seeing a lot of homeless folks, a lot of new faces. So we've got work to do, and it's going to take every single one of us, every resource in the city to help these folks. And we work together. The city will be, Aaron Gray said something the other day that just really stuck with me. It was not just about saving the people, but it's about saving the city. And that really struck home to me, because I know, I'll go walking downtown late at night, not late at night, but at night, just because I like to do that. And I don't feel, I feel safe. But I know a lot of people don't. But I want us to see our downtown back, and people just enjoying Kingsport. So Don, tell them where we're at in all this.
Okay, we've got a beautiful building paid for, thanks to the glory of God and the donations of individuals, churches, and one corporate contribution by design. We have not gone there yet. We know what our budgets are. We will be shortly. Excuse me. As of tomorrow, with any luck, we will have plans with the new site elevations and the handicap facilities or drawings or whatever to get people up into the, any of you that have been by the building, the old Mary Mays and the Hamilton and the Thompson Delivery Service are an elevated where you can't get handicap accessibility in, and even the old attorney's office, you can't get into it handicap wise. We will have full handicap accessibility. If you look at the right-hand end of the building, as you're facing the building, that will be our day center. And I think Bobby has got, all right, now on the right-hand side of what you've got sitting there, where the windows break there behind the telephone pole on the right-hand side, that's 2,600 square feet upstairs and 2,600 square feet downstairs. The downstairs portion will be our day center. It opens up into the big backyard that is fenced now with barbed wire and chain link fence. We're changing that out to an all 8-foot solid vinyl fence to keep from drug trafficking, et cetera, from coming in. I know they can throw things over, but we want a place for our people to come in and have a place to heal and not be on display. On the left-hand side, all the windows upstairs will be our night manager's location and the men's shelter. It's about equal space, but the way it's cut up and the number of showers we're putting in, we'll have roughly 20 men and 20 women that will be able to stay upstairs at night. Day center is just limited by space. We're going to move our drug and alcohol counselors that are the only existing tenants that are left to the one-story portion on the far left of what you see in front of you. Bobby alluded to the fact that we were approached and the board has approved letting another nonprofit come in that will provide not only dental equipment and dental students, et cetera, but they're also going to provide the reconstruction of, or whatever construction is necessary, the facilities, so on their end. So we're going to give them some space to operate out of and to grow their program, but we're going to, they're going to have the investment in it, and it's private dollars, no government dollars, no strings attached. And with the new designs we came up with last week, last Friday afternoon and evening, Roger Barnett, our architect, has figured out a way to get us handicap access up to those 3 units without having to go into extra handicap dollars for bathrooms, because we are putting them in on the right-hand side. Now in our day center, we will have the opportunity to put, we have it designed to put a single bedroom convertible facility for male and a single one for female, to allow us to be able to handle a handicapped individual that shows up that needs the help that we can't find immediate housing for. We're reconstructing in there. We'll be adding a unisex handicap bathroom. While we are not targeting trying to handle that long-term because of splitting staff at night and the cost involved, we're not going to turn somebody away to the street if we need to house them. What we're going to do next is when we get the plans and we've got the fire suppression system, which is probably our single largest expenditure, is going to be, best guess, $60,000 to put that in. Now that was 8 or 9 months ago. I don't know what costs have done. We've done some other things that are going to help in that cost. We've got a location for the riser, but that will fire suppression all the building. We'll add 2 sets of washer and dryers in the men's facility upstairs. We'll add 2 sets of washers and dryers to the women's facility upstairs, and a set of washer and dryers downstairs for the day center. Some of those we've already got donated. Bobby and I've spent several weekends hauling furniture from, I guess, as far away from Johnson City, and a bunch of it we had stored downstairs. We've got a 40-foot container, intermodal container, sitting in the back yard now that's full of furniture and computer cabinets and desks and things that we would have to buy, washers and dryers, refrigerators, and that sort of thing. So what are we going to be doing going forward? As soon as we get this and we get a timeline, I've got a building contractor that just offered to give us advice, but we're going to try to come up with as many volunteer opportunities as we can. I know Habitat regulars have said they want to help. We're going to add, construction wise, we'll have to add a fire escape in the back, which will be a wood structure with a cover over it. We're going to have to rip out some walls and to add 3 showers on the men's side, and I think 3 on the women's side. And then some other plumbing facilities on the women's side, commodes, etc. Have to put flooring, most likely, once we get the carpet up in the women's side. There'll be opportunities for taking the ceiling tiles down to run that sprinkler system through the ceilings. We also have been given by the city the old Bank of Tennessee drive-in shelters. They were the green on Center Street there. There's 4 of them that are 12 by 12 that are basically the covering on them are busted out from vandalism over in Brickyard Park, but the structures are super sound. We're going to put those in the back. One of the churches has stepped up and said they'd like to be in charge of stripping the old coverings out of that. So we'll move those over and then put some new tin on top or plexiglass or whatever we come up with, and have picnic type shelters, sun shelters, rain shelters in the backyard, so that our clients can heal in the outside air. And it's just, Lord keeps laying these opportunities in our lap, and we keep jumping on them, and you know, I keep having to remind myself that this is the Lord's timing and not mine or ours. It's taken longer than we expected to get it. The Lyle family has, as part of the deal, said they wanted to furnish a chapel within the building, which most likely, based on the current structures, are going up into the Mary Maid, if you remember where that is, into the middle of the facility on the half story that's up the steps. But it's really exciting on what we're having to do. The city has been wonderful to work with. I don't know how many meetings that I've had with the parking people, the building inspector, the fire marshals, and Roger Barnett has just been tremendous in not only his fees, but with his time and his interest in it. So that would end what I've got. There's gonna be a lot of opportunities going forward, but I'm worried about getting the building open right now. So, and the Lord's on our side with it. He certainly is. As treasurer, I can't tell you how blessed we are to have the funds that have come in without a single dime of government funds at this point. We are faith-based. We will have some government funds, I'm sure. We're going to apply for a grant from the city that will allow us on a fascia grant to pay for some of those constructions out front. I'd rather spend somebody else's money on hard stuff and let us stretch our dollars for opening the doors. So I think that's a mouthful, I guess I would say. I'll turn it over to whoever needs to be turned over to.
I think I'm the one that is the third person. Let me tell you about some of the things we are doing and some of the issues we are finding. First of all, let me just mention a telephone call that we received the other night from a lady who was crying and hysterical, saying, "I am losing my lease. I have nowhere to go to live. Please tell me where I can find housing." This is an issue that does affect the group that we're talking about, the homeless community. We are finding that in the city of Kingsport, there's lots of development of new housing at $350,000 or $400,000. There are many people who cannot afford this. We need to begin to decide where we are, who we are, and what we want to do. We need to make sure that the people who are out there working and trying to make life better for themselves have an opportunity to do so. The Kingsport Homeless Ministry, as you have heard, has evolved over several years. Joe Morrison's vision has remained constant and will. What we want you to know is that we are hoping that the individuals who are going to be coming forward to Grace House are going to be looking for opportunities to change their life. We are not just offering night shelter. We are offering services to help these individuals move forward through mental health, through help with substance abuse, with individuals who happen to have legal issues or court records. We want people to know that there will be ways of accessing medical help, both physically and mentally. And Bobby was talking about dental health. You know, these are, and we need to make sure that individuals have resources that are available to them at a later date. We want them to feel that they are being supported, that they have ways of changing their lives. If the people are not willing to participate in the services that are available, then it is questionable as to whether Grace House is the place for them. We want people to feel that they are supported and have a way out of the situations that they find themselves in. We have seen what can be done. Another issue that we need to consider in Kingsport is housing first. There are many instances across our country where individuals who are homeless are being given and supported to find housing first and then the support services. You know, is the question whether we want to provide the services first and then say, hey, maybe you can find housing, or is it that we want to put them someplace that they can feel comfortable and know they are safe before they access the other services? We look at what is happening in this nation. Homelessness is not an issue that is just in one place or another. There are millions of people that we can define as homeless in our country. Is this the nation we want to be? At Waverly Road Presbyterian Church, we are looking at opportunities for service. As Joe says, the first responsibility we have is to pray. Pray for answers for these individuals and how we can support them. We are also looking at an opportunity for service through our missions and saying, okay, look, these people need, when they come into Grace House, they're going to need a towel, a washcloth, soap, shampoo, deodorant, the things that you know and use every day that they do not have either access to or funds to purchase. So we are asking at Waverly Road that you donate some of these items to the mission program before the end of March, either the actual physical items or whether we're talking about just providing funding. It is your opportunity to say, hey, you know, maybe we can do something to help these people. The people who are homeless in Kingsport vary greatly. The lady who called on the phone has a 13-year-old son and a 21-year-old son. She makes good money, $17 an hour, and that's reasonable. But there are no places for her to rent. What are we going to do as the city of Kingsport to change what is happening on a daily basis in our community? Have we gone to the extreme? Are we serving only those people who have the means to purchase properties? Or are we going to find ways to help those that may be out there and want to make changes in their lives?
That's beautiful, Betty, and that's spot on. But I want to add one thing to that. Sadly, Kingsport is ground zero in East Tennessee for drug abuse. And now we're seeing cocaine's making a big comeback, heroin's making a big comeback. But sadly, it's all being laced with fentanyl. And now there's a new strand of fentanyl coming in from Mexico and Thailand. It's just deadly. And what we're finding out with people, housing first is a good thought and it's a good ideal. But if you've been living on the streets and you're fighting drug addiction, you're not going to be able to be in an apartment by yourself or even with somebody and make it work until you get the help to do that. Now, some people can, and we've seen it. We have some places, Kingsport housing that, down on Stratford, and it has worked for some of those folks. They have been able to sustain they're living until we find something, their permanent housing.
I
And
wasn't saying, Bobby, that Housing
No.
First was our only alternative.
No,
I
no,
said
no.
it is an
Yes.
alternative.
Yes, Betty, I understood that, and it is, and it would be great if that worked. But we just got, the drug thing here, and and this is just my belief. It's a stronghold in this city. It's a stronghold in this region, and it's been that kind of stuff's been a stronghold in this region since Al Capone. It was alcohol back then, it's drugs now. We're in the middle of the I-81 highway from Florida to New York, and we're just in the middle of it. But we're fighting it, and it's gonna be a fight, and it needs all of us. And Betsy is so right. We need places for them to live. When they tore down Lee Apartments, I did find out today that we're getting real close to starting building the replacement for Lee Apartments, finally. And that'd be like 128 units,
Have you
hopefully.
seen
It was Sam, the executive deputy director, was on, I think, in the newspaper today about it. But that's still ways off. And we just got to make a place that gives them hope. Right now, you watch them walk down the street. I call it the Walking Dead. That may be mean, but that there's no hope. This is my life. And that's why Hunger First had such a grip, because that was their community. That's the only community they knew, where they could go and unfortunately do the same things they would do if they weren't there. But we've got to be able to pick up the slack now and prove we can truly help these people. So that's what we need to be doing. And I really appreciate.
Where are the people who have been at Hunger First? Where are they going after next Friday?
We, Salvation Army, using some of that grant, they're going to add 9 beds to the Salvation Army. Some will go there. Like I said, we got a guy going to Louisiana, and I suspect there'll be some other bus tickets flying out of Kingsport. But sadly, there's just not enough places for them. At one time, I guess there's 30 people in there. And that's why we're trying so hard. We've been working so hard to get this place open. But unfortunately, unless somebody intervenes with longer hotel rooms, there's not a whole lot of places to go.
So I'm going to stop us here because it's about 7:15 and we've got lots of folks on the call tonight, and I want to make sure people have an opportunity to ask questions. So I'm going to open up the floor now to anybody who has a question for any of our speakers tonight.
I have a question. I had heard that Hunger First was going to be closing. I don't know the details behind that. I'm not up on that. Is that something that you can share why they are closing? I know there have been a lot of issues around that, but I also know they've provided some services.
They have provided some services, but sadly, they didn't provide the services that could get the people into a better place. And I think what happened was the owner of the building finally decided they wasn't going to renew their lease. So actually, I think KHRA bought the property. They'd already bought the property behind it because they're going to put some like small 4-unit senior apartments there. And so as far as I know, Monday, they'll take possession of it unless something changes, and everything changes.
My understanding was that the building was to be raised.
That is the way I understand it.
Thank you.
If you talk to the people on Myrtle Street, it's been a hard thing for a lot of people. But again, those people were, you talk to some of them, that was my home. And it's hard to break that, that chain of dependency and codependency that was there. But I think Michael's mom, if you ever knew her, was a good woman.
She
And
was.
she did a good work, and I wish Michael could have continued it. Michael's got other things in the fire now, and wish him the best. But we got to be prepared to take up the slack, because there's going to be a lot of people needing something.
So what can you all tell us about the search for the executive director for Grace House?
Well, Don can jump in here. Where are you, Don? Don't you leave me. Anyway, I think we had 150 applicants apply for the job, and they were from everywhere. We have our board meeting tomorrow at noon, and hopefully we'll have a list of good candidates for that job. But again, I say job, but this is not a job. This has got to be a passion. This has got to be a calling, because this is not a job that you can walk into and do, I don't think. If you don't have a passion for it and a desire and a calling from the Lord on it, it's going to be a hard road.
Yeah.
Question on finances. I understand the building's paid for. Where do you stand on being able to sustain an annual operating budget? How's that part of the financing working out?
Where'd you go, Don?
He's
Well,
gone.
Don's gone, and thank you, Don. But no, we are getting good contributions from the churches, and we've been telling them all along, this needs to be a sustaining thing. We're going to be able to keep our cost as minimal as we can, and still we've had an entire security system provided now for us free. We have our biggest expense will be the executive director and the security, because we're not going to have a place where people do whatever they want. We will have 24-hour security on site. You won't be able to hang out outside, and we'll have a fenced in place out back where people can be, that they don't get stared at from the street, but also the businesses downtown ain't exposed to it. So, if we can prove that we can do this, I'm confident that the sustainability of it's gonna be good. And there are, other Christian organizations. I think if Betty can tell you, we even got on General Electric's list of charity, which is humongous. We don't know how that's going to play out just yet. And we've got the colleges involved now, and ETSU is the king of grants as far as taking care of the homeless. Their day center in Johnson City is run completely on grants, and they're very good at it. But I think here in our case, the churches work together. We keep our costs as low and be as frugal as we can be, and also count on other resources. We're not the main resource for the homeless. We're the starting point. There are good resources in this town to feed them, to clothe them. We're just the first step. And that's why we're not going to be feeding them. We'll have coffee and snacks in the morning. But to be able to have a cafeteria to feed people is a whole nother expense and a whole nother bunch of city codes that we just didn't want to deal with. Plus, you can eat 2 or 3 meals a day in town for the most part. So that's the best I can answer on the sustainability right now, since Don deserted me.
Appreciate it.
It's amazing the amount of money that individuals have contributed from Waverly Road to the Kingsport Homeless Ministry. It is something that we need to continue to do, and we are not the only ones. There are numerous churches. There have been 17 churches who have contributed to the Kingsport Homeless Ministry. And we are trying to emphasize to them that we need this to be a continuing effort. This is something that is not going to diminish. Our expenses are not going to go away. We are going to need continuing support, not only from Waverly Road, but from the other 16 churches that have already contributed. It is, we are looking at our mission being from Matthew 25:35. Jesus told us this is what we are to be doing. Are we going to listen?
Well, I know everybody on this page, I about guarantee it's been on a mission trip somewhere. My furthest one's been Scotland. But to me, at least in my heart, my mission is Kingsport. And because that's where God put me. That's where God put our churches. And we need a revival. We need a revival in Kingsport. We need a revival in this nation. And this is where it's going to start.
So this probably would have been a good question for Don before he bailed on you, but what I know it's hard to predict, but what's the earliest that you can envision Grace House opening for overnight shelter? Any guess?
Well, it's so hard. I mean, if the city has the plans tomorrow and they give the go ahead, you know, if the sprinkler people, we've got the beds pretty much promised to us. We've already got linens, we've already got desks, we've got computers, we've got everything for the most part. It's just the manual labor of getting it done. So right now it's March, what is it, 15th?
June the 1st is
June.
a possible date.
Yep, that's probably about right. I mean, we
And
could,
I was going to say, Nan Lyle Nichols, who was raised at Waverly Road, is the individual who was the owner of the building and has really helped us greatly in terms of the price that we paid for the building. Nan is very supportive of what we are trying to do. The family wants us to succeed. Remember, there aren't a whole lot of people at Waverly Road that remember her family. But the point is, there are people out there in Kingsport who are willing to pray and to work to bring about the business of running a shelter and continuing to support that shelter through the years.
Other questions for Bobby and Betsy?
I'm going to give everybody Don's personal cell phone number so you can
Yeah,
feel free
me
to.
too. I'll here.
No, Don has worked himself tirelessly, not just in the finances, but with the architects and the planning and the city codes and boards. And well, you know, if you have a
Absolutely.
business, if you have a
Absolutely.
business in Kingsport, hoops you got to jump through.
And he did tell me he was at some other event at Meadowview tonight, so he jumped out of that to join
Hey.
us.
He's
No.
out having dinner. Don't.
He deserves it if he is.
No other questions? Okay, I'm going to reiterate what Betsy said about the service projects. There are bins set up in the narthex at Waverly Road where you can drop off your items for the hygiene kits that we are trying to collect for the guests that will stay at Grace House once it opens. There is in the narthex also some colored sheets with the full list of all the different items we are hoping to collect. That list is also on the back of Colin's letter that's in your packet that you received for this season of mission a little while ago. So you can refer to that. You can make monetary donations. Just make a notation on the memo line that it's for the Grace House kits. And if you have some things that you can't get to the church and you need somebody to stop by your home and pick them up, please contact me and I will make arrangements to make that happen. So before we close this evening in prayer, I do want to thank each of our speakers tonight for spending this time with us and for working so diligently to help provide the resources that those experiencing homelessness in our community so desperately need. I also want to thank Howard for taking care of all the technical aspects of making and editing the video with Joe, and also for handling everything with our Zoom meeting this evening.
Which
Would
will
any-
be available
On the Waverly
YouTube.
Road, channel shortly, right, shortly. And we hope lots more people will be able to see it online. But thank you all for joining us tonight. And would anybody be interested in closing us in prayer this evening?
I would like to.
Thank you, Betsy.
Holy Father God, you tell us what we are to do. You give us resources. We need to move forward to your mandates and ask to help us in our daily walk. Let us remember the homeless and those who are in need. You provide us with the opportunities and the resources. Please let us know how to use them and how to listen for your will. Bless those who are with us tonight and help us all to move forward in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you
God
all.
bless.
Thank you.
Thanks. That was great.